Hi. So there are quite a lot of new abilities in Shadowlands, but there's also just some abilities that have changed and some priorities that have changed. So some abilities are just more usable by more people. So I've made a few macros during my leveling and playing of Shadowlands, both on the beta and on the PTR and here. And I found some quite useful ones for my main, which is a Druid. So going into this, the first one is Prowl. A Prowl macro, a Prowl catform macro. So this right here is the macro, but let me explain to you how it works. I think this is because of some GCD changes that I'm able to do this. I certainly wasn't able to do this before, but now I can. And the basic macro is as follows. If I can go into stealth, it'll simply go into stealth. If I can't go into stealth, if stealth is on cooldown, I'll go into cat form. Now, if instead of that, I'm in combat, and I also can't go into stealth, I'll also go into cat form. This works for feral, this works for balance, this works for healer. It's really, really nice, and because of how it works, I've chosen that I don't really need another macro for either cat form or stealth. This is just my one-all stealth cat form macro, and the reason for that is also a change that is a little bit older than Shadowlands. I think it was in mob or was it after? I think it was after mob that stealth is just the same speed as normal cat form. So I don't see any reason to have stealth separately. The only reason you would have is if you want to go into cat form, but don't want to waste the cooldown of stealth, which is only 6 seconds. So I can imagine if you're feral, maybe, but in most cases, I think this is just the one button that does it all. Speaking of one button that does it all, I do have cat form one other place, which is this travel form macro here. So you'll see it goes into cat form. Now, this is because I'm inside right now, and you'll see this a lot in Shadowlands that you're not outside all the time anymore. There's not Borealis and Sandalar. It is Oribos and these Covenants, which are always inside, and you can't use your mount very often. And hence you can't use travel form. So this macro just puts you into cat form if you are if you're inside. It also has a second function. It does not put you out of travel form or out of cat form if you press it twice, like it would if you are pressing the key normally. And the reason for that, the reason I did that is because I spam that key quite a lot, trying to get away from people who gank me, because I've leveled it with the war mode on. So spamming that key a lot, and all of a sudden going out of cat form again. Sorry, that's really annoying. So that key does that. You can change that by deleting. Let me find the macro. By deleting the nostance 3 part of the macro or the nostance 2 part of the macro here for cat form. I've also chosen that the icon for this macro is just going to be travel form, because if you are inside of travel form or are inside of cat form, it eliminates the option of going into cat form again, as we talked about. So the icon for the macro, if you don't change it yourself, just becomes a question mark, because it does nothing. Like right now I'm in cat form and I'm inside, it does nothing. So I've just had it to be travel form all of the time, and I just think of my cat form as my second travel form, or my indoor version of travel form. So yeah, that's the other macro just for controlling your forms. The third macro, going quite to a different one, is that is about Ursol's Vortex. So Ursol's Vortex is really, really nice, because now you can get it at any specialization. It's a healer ability, but you can get it through the affinity talent. So you have all these nice affinities. The other two are quite simple, but Ursol's Vortex you have to place on the ground, and usually when you place something on the ground, it looks like this, right? It's this green circle. Instead, I've made a cursor macro, which is, if you ever played a MOBA game, it's like quick casting. And it basically just works to put it on where your cursor already is. So it basically skips that green circle. So let me show you. That's Ursol's Vortex. Again, really useful when you're being ganked. And I also have this for treants. So and that's just a cursor macro, quite simple. I'll of course write every macro in the description, but you can see here. This is quite the simple macro. Just add cursor in brackets. And I think that sort of rounds it off. I'll say Starfall no longer needs that cursor macro because you no longer place it on the ground, so that's nice. It just happens all around you. I really like that change. I like when it makes the game feel smoother, and I think these macros as well, the cursor macros as well, make the game feel smoother. You've gotten some other few abilities like Stampeding Roar, but these ones, there's not really any reason to have macros. Regarding Covenant abilities, I have not tested all Covenant abilities for all classes, and I don't really know if there's some really nice macros out there for those. But I do know you can macro them so that you have one macro that basically works for all Covenant abilities, should you change or should you want the same macro on another character, which is another Covenant. But enough about that. I think that was the Druid macros for now. I don't think there's anything else, but if there's anything you're curious about regarding Druid and Druid macros, be sure to write it. And if there's any class you'd like me to basically take a look at, I'm thinking next maybe Mage or Rogue or Shaman. I'm not sure. I have a few macros for some other classes. If there's something you're specifically interested in, be sure to tell, and if you're struggling with some macros, just write down in the comments and we'll try to figure it out together. Alright, thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day.